Are you a visual learner, auditory learner, kinesthetic learner, read or write learner? If you don't know about this, continue watching this video. Our first learning style is visual learning style. Visualizing the connections between many topics for visual learners is the most effective presentation technique. A flow chart, for instance, can be used to explain a scientific procedure. This preference extends to the presentation of data through the use of maps, spider diagrams, charts, graphs, flowcharts, labeled diagrams, and others. Visual learners are easily identified since they are the ones that make lists, draw, and take notes. While they require information utilizing alternative visual aids, such as patterns and forms, they don't always respond well to pictures or films. Are you a visual learner? Let's test it. 10 images will be displayed on the screen. You have to remember them, so let's begin. Okay, stop the video right now and try to remember them. How many pictures can you remember? Did you remember more than or equal to 50% of the picture? If you do, well done. Our next style is auditory learning style. What is auditory learner? Well, auditory learners, often known as oral learners, learn best when the information is spoken to them, or they prefer listening to it. These students like reading aloud to themselves and do well in groups where vocal participation is present. They are excellent at verbally expressing topics and don't hesitate to speak in class. They might also read more slowly and frequently repeat what their teacher says. These students can find concentrating difficult when other students are talking or when there are distracting background noises. Are you an auditory learner? Let's test it. 10 words will be read and shown to you. So let's begin. Umbrella, bag, laptop, house, honey, kindness, landlord, shop, bottle, book. Okay, pause the video right now and try to remember the words. How many words can you remember? Well, if you can remember more than or equal to 50% of the words, well done. Next is kinesthetic learning. The kinesthetic learning approach connects academic work to physical activity. Pacing back and forth, making flowcharts, underlining notes, and tapping their legs are a few body actions that aid kinesthetic learners in processing information. Kinesthetic learners learn best when actively participating in activities or watching simulations, presentations, and videos. Active participation in learning is necessary for kinesthetic learners. They are tactile learners who gain and remember information through physical action, testing, trial and error, and a non-traditional learning environment. It cannot be done with you. So, pause the video, learn this way, and find out how much you have learned this way. Next is read-write learning. Students with a read-write learning style succeed with written material on worksheets, presentations, and other materials containing a lot of text. They take notes and perform well when they can refer to written material. Writing, reading books or articles, journaling, looking up terms in dictionaries, and exploring the internet for just about anything characterizes a read-write learner. However, there is some overlap with visual learning. So, pause the video. Again, learn this way and find out how much you have learned this way. Pause the video right now and find out which one do you best. If you do best in visual learning, then you are a visual learner. Or if you do best in auditory learning, then you are an auditory learner. Find out this way, which is better for you. But, wait, here is problem. This was a myth. But how? Let me explain. One looked at visualizers versus verbalizers, instead of visual versus auditory learners. The study was computer-based, so first students' learning styles were assessed using questions like, would you rather read a paragraph or see a diagram describing an atom? The researchers also provided some challenging explanations with 2 buttons, visual help or verbal help. The visual one played a short animation, whereas the verbal help gave a written explanation. From these measures combined, the researchers categorized the students as either visualizers or verbalizers, and then the students were randomly assigned to go through a text-based or picture-based lesson on electronics. When a student covered their mouse over keywords in the lesson in the text-based group, a definition and clarification came up. But in the picture group, an annotated diagram was shown instead. And after the lesson, the students did a test to assess their learning. The students whose preferred learning style matched their instruction performed no better on the tests than those whose instruction was mismatched. The researchers ran the test again with 61 non-college educated adults and found exactly the same result. But learning styles are a preference. So how strongly do learners stick to their preference? Well, in a 2018 study, during the first week of semester, over 400 students at a university in Indiana completed the VARC questionnaire, and they were classified according to their learning style. Then at the end of the semester, the same students completed a study strategy questionnaire. So how did they actually study during the term? Well, an overwhelming majority of students used study strategies which were supposedly incompatible with their learning style. And the minority of students who did not perform significantly differently on the assessments. In the course, the visual, auditory, reading writing kinesthetic, or VARK model came about from Neil Fleming, a school inspector in New Zealand. Describing the origins of VARK, he says, "I was puzzled when I observed excellent teachers who did not reach some learners, and poor teachers who did. I decided to try to solve this puzzle. There are, of course, many reasons for what I observed. But one topic that seemed to hold some magic, some explanatory power, was preferred modes of learning, modal preferences. And thus VARK was born. There was no study that revealed students naturally cluster into 4 distinct groups. Just some magic that might explain why some teachers can reach students while others can't. But how can this be? If we accept that some people are more skilled at interpreting and remembering certain kinds of stimuli than others, like visual or auditory, then why don't we see differences in learning or recall with different presentations? Well, it's because what we actually want people to recall is not the precise nature of the images or the pitch or quality of the sound. It's the meaning behind the presentations. There are some tasks that obviously require the use of a particular modality. Learning about music, for example, should have an auditory component. Similarly, learning about geography will involve looking at maps. But in overall cases, to learn something you don't need a specific learning style. A learner generally learned their own way. So, this is end of our video. If you enjoyed, make sure to like and subscribe to our channel. If you want to know about the mechanism behind the wood battery, you can see this video.